what role in your journey, in your life, has or does community and solitude impacted or affected your growth journey? And how can you community better? And how can you solitude better? What does community do for you?
Welcome to the EQ Gangster podcast, where you will learn practical tools to grow your mental and emotional health and intelligence to be the best version of yourself, both at work and at home. It is real, raw, and transformational. The journey of emotional growth isn't easy, but it's worth it. I believe in you. This episode is sponsored by Arrowhead Leadership Consulting. What are your organization's biggest pain points right now? Low EQ leaders, weak managers, toxic culture, high turnover, low engagement, leader development, lagging behind company growth, no company career path. Let us know if your organization needs leadership coaching, workshops, training, or keynotes. Visit arrowhead-leadership.com for more details. Arrowhead-leadership.com.
EQ Gangsters. So about ready to head into the gym, and did a recent post on LinkedIn about the relationship between community versus solitude and how those two affect and impact growth. So excited to share some of those thoughts with you guys. I am thankful for emergency rooms. What? If you're on YouTube, you can see me pointing to the West Plano, Texas ER. If you ever need an ER, that's a great emergency room to go visit. I had another pancreas episode last night, the night before last at midnight, and spent the morning with some wonderful ER staff. Oh man, and I'm eating clean, y'all, legit. I'm losing weight. I'm eating clean. I'm getting healthy. My PT has been super consistent, so it was a little frustrating to be back in. Normally, I know why I'm in the ER. I mean, with a pancreas deal, it's if I eat something like super greasy or fatty, or like, a whole bunch of ice cream or something like that, and greasy food. And this time I didn't. So anyway, I'm still figuring that piece out. But I'm grateful for ERs. I'm grateful for medical staff. I'm grateful for nurses. I'm grateful for I had two great nurses, a nurse Alex and a nurse Fran. And then this great CT tech named Earl. And like, if you can picture an Earl, this is the guy. Super great guy. They gave me some pretty heavy pain meds, because when you get when your pancreas inflames, for me it's like gallstones or something. They're still figuring out what's going on, but it's a whole nother, like, it's pain. It's just next level pain. I mean, not that there's maybe like any good pain. I mean, there is good pain, but in terms of physical body pain, I don't know there's good pain, but this is next level pain. And, I don't remember everything that he shared with me because of the pain meds I was on, but just a super guy. And then the doctor was phenomenal. Dr. Kader, which it's Kadr, also phenomenal doc, great dude. And anyway, just very grateful for medical staff, very thankful for medical professionals with good bedside manners and also competent, and very thankful for the guests on my podcast. I interviewed a guy today named Travis Blakely. This will probably drop after that interview. He has an amazing story, and I didn't share it in the podcast interview, which I'm really bummed out about. But let me tell you what I'm thankful for is I was in this Panera. I'm traveling a lot during Q1 and Q2, which I'm grateful for. Grateful for the travel, because of it's a lot of business and a lot of leaders I get to sew into and impact. It's a lot of alone time, and more than I'm used to. And I'm in a Panera before I got to go to this engagement, this all-day workshop with a client north of Dallas, and with about 30 leaders. And so I'm in this Panera, kind of getting my ducks in a row, kind of preparing and going over my notes. And I'm sitting there, and here comes this dad. He's a younger guy, maybe mid-30s if I had to guess, and he's there with his 5, 6, 7 year old, maybe 6 or 7, and they're doing math together. And he's going over math problems, encouraging his kid, all this kind of stuff. And just this great, just watching this beautiful picture of this dad sewing into his son that his son will never forget. And I didn't want to interrupt because it was just a beautiful scene. And, and the dad's real engaging and stuff. And anyway, he's definitely an influencer personality like me. So I could, relate and, figure that out fairly quickly. Super engaging with the staff and everything, and encouraging. And anyway, they're getting ready to leave, pack up their stuff. They're almost out the door. And I say, "Hey man." And then he kind of turned around and said, "Great job, Dad." He comes back up, says, "Hey man, thanks." I said, "Hey, my name's Noble." He said, "Hey, my name's Travis." And, just in a very brief time, we connected. Two influencers. It's not too super surprising. Two influencer personalities. And he, again, briefly shares with me his story. And I said, "Hey man, any chance I could interview you on my podcast so I can share kind of your story and stuff?" And he said, "Man, it'd be great." And so we booked it a few weeks later, which was today, and just shared a very powerful journey with I mean, he was very successful in, the corporate America arena, working for a professional basketball team. And then, I guess, kind of before that, started a little bit with, well, I guess he was early on exposed to alcohol, and I think some degree like weed or something early, like as a kid. And just, I guess, kind of never stopped, kind of struggled with it off and on. But then for 6 years straight, like hardcore, you know, alcohol addiction, and I guess did some, a lot of weed, I guess, during that time frame too, and shared his struggle, his journey from addiction to recovery, and kind of what that story was like. And I asked him what role both community and solitude played in his recovery. So that's kind of what I want to share with you guys, is like, in your journeys of struggle and growth, and me with all this alone time traveling between clients, and I was in Connecticut, and then Texas, and then North Carolina, California, Kentucky, and more after that. I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's every week I'm traveling. And so what role in your journey in your life has or does community and solitude impacted or affected your growth journey? And how can you community better? And how can you solitude better? What does community do for you? What does solitude do for you? I talked to my therapist recently, and that's what he challenged me, because I'm going through this book. It is fire, y'all. How People Grow by Dr. Henry Cloud. Life changing. I think I'm on my 5th or 6th time through it right now, in the matter of like 2 months. And he also wrote a book, also life changing, called Changes That Heal. And in that book, he talks about, kind of his emphasis is on, I mean, one of the chapters, not the whole book, but in one of the chapters, he emphasizes the importance of community in healing. And I, after being in a very transactional organization, I could almost argue a couple transactional organizations. The Army was fairly transactional, even though you'd say, "Oh man, you know, I'd go to the foxhole, go take a bullet for you," which in many cases we would for each other. The the fo- you know After you get out of the Army, it's just a very different story. Same thing with this other organization that I was in for a long time. This other business organization, very transactional. I thought it was relationship based, but it's only relationship based. It's conditional relationship based. But again, in my emotional neediness, pre EQ, emotional codependent nature in that time, I thought it was a lot more and much deeper. Plus, again, my neediness played into the whole dynamic of screwing things up. In terms of like being so needy with the people that I had met and wanting a deeper relationship other than transactional, because no one wanted a relationship outside of the organization. It was, as long as we're doing business together, fine. Outside of business, I don't care about your life. As long as you're producing, you are insignificant and irrelevant. And which is, again, is fine. I just had expected and wanted more. And so that kind of burnt me out on relationships. So then when we moved to Colorado for 4 years or so, I wanted nothing to do with people, and like at all. I mean, other than my family, but outside of my family, there was maybe in very small doses, I would do very small intentional doses. I would do people, but not other than that. And so, which I also know wasn't necessarily healthy for long term. It was fine based on what I was going through at the time and just trying to um, recover, just heal from my 24 years in that kind of toxic, emotionally controlling and manipulating environment I was in, which I learned a ton of great lessons, which I'm very thankful for, and I learned a ton of what not to do as well. And so now I'm trying to learn what does emotionally healthy community look like? What do emotionally healthy relationships look like? What does emotionally healthy solitude look like? In fact, one of the points that Travis brought up today in the podcast interview, he said that he almost prefers solitude. Like, it's solitude, not necessarily prefers it, but he enjoys solitude, and he needs it, he appreciates it. But he said solitude is different than isolation, which I thought, okay, that's really great. So again, that's a whole other question, right? What's the relationship between solitude and isolation, and what's the difference? What makes solitude and isolation? What makes one maybe healthy or productive and the other one not healthy or productive? And can you control it? And how do you control it? Do you want to control it? So anyway, those are some things, and I'd love to hear from you all, either on a review or a comment, or hit me up on LinkedIn, hit me up on one of the social media platforms. I would love to hear what how what is your thought process about community and about solitude, and how have both played a role in your life and in your growth? And then how can you be more intentional at community, and how can you be more intentional at solitude? So those are some things that I'm chewing on, wrestling with, and asking my podcast guests and stuff, and other people too, kind of their understanding of relationship. Again, because as a healing, recovering people pleaser addict, everything is different. Everything, you view the world very, very differently. And so, I viewed community very, very different, and solitude very, very, very differently. As an emotionally needy guy, pre EQ, and even during my EQ growth journey, I viewed community, it's like I needed community, right? Like needed it. But again, I didn't even know what kind of community I needed or what I was looking for, but it was based on I was not coming from an emotionally healthy place because I was needy. And so I was expecting one thing, I got something very different. If I had been emotionally healthy, I wouldn't that I would not have gotten the rug pulled out from under me. And I probably would have, I don't know, I would have just had my eyes open, let me say that way, going in, versus again going at it with a very naive approach. And the same thing with solitude is being emotionally needy. I hated solitude. I wanted to run. I never wanted to be alone because that's where I got my worth and value from the validation and approval from everyone around me, which obviously is not healthy. And so my therapist recently shared, "Hey, dude, yes, absolutely, God heals through community, and God heals through solitude." Jesus many times went off by himself to pray, and he wasn't around people all the time. Sometimes that's how he recharged his battery is getting time just with him and his father, right? Just QT and prayer. And I'm sure being around people, I don't know, obviously he was around people a lot, tremendously. I don't know whether or not it recharged him or not per se, but I definitely know that he recharged himself alone in solitude and prayer with his father. And so I'm just at a spot in my life now where I'm trying to do both better, more intentionally, and from an emotionally and spiritually healthier place. Thank you for being a part of this journey. Your emotional health and freedom is so worth the pain and stuff you got to go through to get there. It's so worth it, y'all. It's scary, it's uncertain, it's difficult, it's challenging, it's all those uncomfortable, unpleasant things, and it's worth it. You are worth it. Your family's worth it. Your spouse is worth it. Your kids are worth it. And it is tough. It can be the both can be true at the same time. It's not either or, it's both and. Yes, it's hard. Yes, it's challenging. Yes, it's frustrating. Yes, it's scary and all those other things. And it is worth it. You are worth it. The gifts and talents that God has given you are worth it in order for us to be able to show up to the world more effectively so we can impact the world with the gifts that God's given us, unhindered by our own limiting beliefs, emotional dysfunctions, et cetera, et cetera. Thank you guys. If this impacted you or resonated in some way, I would love it if you would share it with a friend, a colleague, a coworker, a family member, if you think it'd benefit them in some way as well. Thank you.